just want to take a moment because this is cool.
Yeah.
Look, we did our little setup. It's just us in the living room. Oh.
They don't even know they're trapped in a box. Those suckers. I can amputate this guy's arm. Check it out.
Oh no.
Oh, magically came back. Oh, yeah. It did actually look. Wait. I think I got it.
I almost made myself puke.
So back to the important
Yeah.
things. How far are the Rohirrim into getting to Minas Tirith?
So, the Pippin is at what's it called? This sort of it's crazy. It's this outpost right near Edoras. Edoras.
Yeah.
Called what's it called? It's like this kind of. It's got this winding step, and they describe it as having been created before them, and there are these statues.
Stone statues.
The stone. They call them the Pico Men or something. It's some
Yeah.
kind of,
Oh my god, that is.
Yeah, and it's like.
That's pretty kind of.
Yeah.
It turns out that
Ancient
is
civilization.
actually briefly in the film for a second. It's like a shot that you see for a moment when they're looking down on the whole encampment of the Rohirrim in the film in Return of the King.
As in it's in view somewhere.
Yeah, no, but because their sort of tent of Theoden, Aragorn, and all them is at that like high point.
Dunharrow.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. So because
they're up there, and that's when, like, in the film, that's when Elrond comes up it, and you see the horse coming up it because he's coming to deliver Aragorn's sword.
Wow, that's quite different.
Yeah. No, exactly. Is very different.
because he's got the sword from.
Yeah, he's
very,
already got
very
the
early
sword.
on.
Yeah, he's already got the sword.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But yes, and that's the point at which they. Have you got to that point? Because that's where they.
So
split.
they're So they're just riding out basically.
Yeah.
So they sleep there one night, and yes, because Gandalf has brought news of the war. So they've kind of and they've been successful at Helm's Deep, and so they're coming back. So they've already prepped their troops basically there at Dunharrow. Dunharrow. And so they're waiting. So Theoden comes back with Pippin, who swore his allegiance to him just previously. And they arrive back and then Éowyn greets them. And now they've just set off.
Wait, are you talking about Pippin or Merry?
Is it Merry?
It must be because Pippin's
Is
with
Merry-
Gandalf in Minas Tirith.
Oh, sorry, I've mixed them up.
Yeah, because I was
Merry.
really fucked in the head.
Yes.
There. Yeah,
I'm
okay,
bad
okay.
with the names.
No,
and
no,
things.
it's all good. It's all good.
I'll be reading this, and he'll just actually. I saw this comment on a thing recently that made me laugh a lot. Okay, I'm not alone because I watched this video where they were describing the art department in the films who were making the
Weta
what they
workshops.
called no, that's VFX. I think this was the. I'll look at the map again. What they called from the south. The Harren. Yeah, the Harren. They're like the ones that have the elephants.
Yeah.
And the art department in this video were saying like, so basically Tolkien didn't really say anything about them other than they had flashes of silver and gold and that they were men. That's it.
Yeah.
And so they had to make up their whole thing. Like they were making them African kind of inspired, and then they were like, "Oh, you can't do that. You don't want like another race of bad people who are black, so that's not good." And then so they made them this kind of mix of all these different cultures, indigenous cultures like Aztec and stop bumping that. So all this stuff. But one of the top comment on that video was like, Tolkien for 3 pages will describe a bush. And then one of the important factions of the world, he'll just say 2 words about it. I was like, I'm not alone, because sometimes I was doing it this morning because I read in the morning. Maybe it's because I'm tired, but I'll just be reading and just be like, okay, he's describing this landscape and where everything is and relative to the character and the thing, and then he's using words that sometimes I'm like, I don't even oh, okay, that's a very specific word for a very specific geological formation.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. But yeah, sometimes it'll take me a while to get through it.
Yeah, I really admire it to the extent, because I have this with different authors where I'll, be reading the books and I'll start like a note on my phone and take down certain words where I'm like, oh, I didn't know that one. That's a good one, to use it. And what I really want to do with Tolkien, I just haven't got around to doing it because I didn't add those specific like geological formations in that way. But is to draw specifically, because there are so many, a mountain, and then do like a diagram of all the different parts and formations of what a mountain is. Because you're just like, mountain, cliff, this. But him, it's like, there's facets, the shoulder of the mountain, the knee of the mountain, the bluff, the bulge.
I read the word gloaming today.
Yeah.
What's a gloaming? It's a thing.
Oh, a gloaming.
Yeah.
Not gloaming like a verb. It was gloaming.
No, it was some kind of, something.
Yeah, right.
Unless I read that wrong. But
right.
It was something like that. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. The gloaming, because he was describing the landscape. So I was like, oh, the gloaming. Oh, I know a band called the Gloaming.
I'm sure that's where they got their name from.
Yeah, probably.
They're big
They're
Tolkien
like
fans.
they're Irish traditional. When we went into that really big long tunnel with Harry
Oh,
in Wales, and I played that song, the violin, that was the gloaming.
That was the gloaming. Maybe that is a gloaming.
Well, that'd be trippy. Imagine if we were in a gloaming, playing the gloaming, and we just talked about the gloaming.
Yeah, and what's very interesting is that, because it doesn't necessarily come through in the book, but that the people from the east, who are I always get the name. I don't know why it doesn't stick. The Harren.
The Harren?
The Harren. Yeah,
They're from the south, though.
Harren. From the south, but it kind of like in the map of the world, it's further like east in terms of you go further.
Well, I'm confused.
Yeah, let me.
Also,
relatively speaking.
Wait, I don't know. That's
where's
more detailed.
Where's the big map?
Bumping this guy. Well, it's not even really on the map. I mean, kind of. So basically, south, like here.
Yeah,
so it's
that's what I mean. That's like east in terms of.
Okay.
So it's like south east. Right.
Yeah. And you can't even see. I'm assuming he's got more maps. I'm assuming, I don't know. Is it even further east this way? I don't know.
Not quite. No, he kind of has more, I think, very general ones. There are old ones, and God, I wish I'd actually brought the book now to see that, because we can actually do a magical thing where we just pop up the map. But if you look at the earliest versions of him drawing the map, it's the world. The world is a ship. Do you remember me showing you this?
Oh,
the world is a ship. And like each pole is, or maybe the far east, the far west is like the stern and the bow. Is that the very front of the ship? And then the moon is like at the top of the mast, upon which the sail like pulls it like through the universe as such. Like this is a whole ship just going through space. Is the entirety of.
Whoa, that's cool.
It's nuts.
Are those like early drafts, or are they canon? Like,
no, I mean, I mean, it's very defining what canon it is.
Like,
is very difficult with Tolkien.
Is it okay? Is it a representation, a symbol, or?
Yeah, no, it's his conceptualization of the world, and it kind of like it evolves over time. But
the
early
world is
on,
not
that's
actually
kind of
a ship.
Yeah, and actually, what's very interesting is that the world is before the fall of Numenor. I believe there are a bunch of like Tolkien heads out there who will be like enraged by the fact that I'm probably got some details wrong, because even though I'm a big avid Tolkien fan, and more than fan's the wrong word, but anyway, I'm a Tolkienite. Maybe that's a word. Who knows? But I'm nowhere near as deep as people who are at the level of sort of Tolkien scholars and have gone into the whole sort of thing of it. But is that after the fall of Numenor, the Númenóreans, because of Sauron twisting the mind of the king over time, and the king really should have killed Sauron, but he, because Númenor was so powerful that like the forces of Sauron, and sort of not Mordor yet, but of Sauron, like just surrendered when the Númenóreans came into the land, because they were a sea kingdom, they were seafarers, and they just surrendered. They took Sauron prisoner, and that was the problem. They took Sauron prisoner and brought him back to Númenor, and then Sauron slowly, like, kind of twisted with his golden tongue, like, the ideas and thoughts and think of the king as the gods are actually denying them immortality, and so eventually, over, I don't know how long it takes, maybe it's over 100 years or so. At the time then, Númenóreans lived, I think it's maybe 400 years, and eventually in his old age, they declare war on the Valar, on the gods, and they sail across the ocean to Valinor, which is like forbidden. No humans, no men are allowed in Valinor, But the elves would kind of come and bring gifts, and there were good relations. And once the relations went down with the elves, people knew, and they marched on Valinor, but they sailed to Valinor, and then and that's the sort of equivalent of the fall of Atlantis, then the gods like create a giant chasm in the middle of the sea with which all of their fleet just falls into it. Númenor, the whole island of Númenor, falls into their giant wave, like washes across the entirety of the land, and in that the survivors of that, who were, funny enough, Isildur and his brother and his like father, I think, they land, and then they set up the kingdoms of Gondor. Oh, and there's another one. But anyway, Gondor. And from that, boats that go to the west only ever come back round the world. So before that, the world was flat. And then in that final like breakage with man and God, the world is made round.
Oh, is that why there is... Because that was a question, and I've heard him say it in an interview. He said that there's good reason for it, but I've never heard him actually talk about why. Why there's seemingly no religion in Middle-earth in some way.
Yeah, well, he had this view, and that's why he had a problem with the tale. He viewed that, like, the England, didn't have, like, a mythology. Like, it had lost its mythology because it had been cut off from its... we'd lost it through its kind of, like, the loss of those kind of druidic roots. And saw that the tales of kind of King Arthur didn't really live up to the task, and part of the reason for that is that Arthur was Christian, and that essentially within mythology, it's not can't have, it's just it doesn't. It's quite a hard thing to sort of piece together, but you can't have a religion within a mythology, and so for him to be a Christian king believing in God, and that's your mythology. I mean, if you think back to any kind of mythology of the world, none of the beings in it have a religion. They have a relationship, right?
Yeah,
they don't have a religion of like
I thought that
it doesn't work, And so it's like it doesn't work in the world for any of them to have a religion. Otherwise, it wouldn't be mythological.
Yeah, it's just sort of stated as fact, as this person spoke to this entity who controls the sea or whatever it is. Yeah. But yeah, it's not like, they have a codified structure of things.
And I think it's because of the nature of how consciousness evolves, is that, we go from being these animistic kind of hunter-gatherers, and the entire world, I mean, the best modern encapsulation that you can kind of gather from that, but I wouldn't ever recommend anyone to say, that's exactly what we were like 100,000 years ago. But to get a flavor of that relationship is something like Tawai, right? and to understand the spirit of the forest, you know. And so you go from there, and then kind of beginning with the beginning of agriculture, you start to have polytheism, because now there are very specific segments of mind that we have to do with certain tasks, and the world becomes less one continuous fabric of existence and more conceptualized boxes of mind, you know, as you go from a intricately interdependent rainforest or whatever environment, and then you go into now we're into making plants, and we've got to follow the cycle of the moon and all that. Then you have kind of gods that dictate the water, and they dictate the moon, and they dictate the thing, and it kind of, and then over time, as civilization evolves enough, then I wouldn't just say everything is therefore doomed to go into monotheism, but you kind of approach there. So to have a mythology of the origins of your people, and it to already be a monotheistic, but it's just, it doesn't puzzle together. It doesn't work. You see what I mean?
There's a podcast that I listen to that's incredible. I think I talked to you about it. It's called the Blind Boy podcast.
Oh yeah.
He's an Irish guy from, is it Limerick? I want to say Limerick.
I think Jack may have told me about it as well.
He's incredible.
He's rediscovering Irish mythology, right?
Yeah, he's very, very interested in that. And I'm not going to be able to go into any detail whatsoever, but there's one episode in particular that's incredible where he goes into this run that he's having in a park, and he has an interaction with a bird that is doing something unusual, and he's very much into biology and ecosystems and stuff, so he notices that strange behavior. And again, I can't say any of the details because my brain doesn't work that way, but through this episode, I really recommend watching it. It's incredible. I have to find which one it was, but he also studies Irish mythology, Celtic mythology. Yeah. And he is, you know, through the course of an hour, I mean, he's like weaving a story, but he's able to link, you know, these ancient stories. I'm starting to get bits of it, but I'm not going to be able to do it. But it's, you know, certain gods who represented the coming of winter and the arrival and the handing over of power between two deities. You know, the god of essentially of winter, well, she is a she, giving power over to the goddess of spring. And within that story, he was able to link this behavior of this bird of the land, who's a native bird of the land, to that story. And it's, but within those stories, there's no religion. It's no like, and then God, and, you know, because the people in it have this is just, here, you know, it's codified knowledge, right? It's codified wisdom. It's not based on, because obviously when Christianity arrived to Ireland and England, because obviously it wasn't originally, you know, there was a Celtic tradition in England as well, though it's the most lost here because Celtics moved further and further north, and obviously to Ireland as well. But they, I mean, those kind of stories like King Arthur, they were sort of, I mean, they had a purpose, right? I think, I'm not an expert, but I think surely some of that purpose largely was to overwrite the old stories, right? I mean, that's where fairies come from and leprechauns come from. They come from old gods of Celtic tradition. So,
and it's working it in, because it's, I mean, in a weird way, it's a very funny way of seeing it, but understanding the spread of religion as almost as I'm trying to think of the correct comparison. It's not someone trying to get you to buy a timeshare, and it's not a pyramid scheme. It's something along the lines where they kind of have to make the sale and tell you, and it's trying to get you to a new broadband provider. I don't know, but there's a level of continuity where they go, you know, you know, those fairies and those things you talk about, you know, I mean, within this, they kind of, they were there. We have those in our story, and those are there as well. And you got to convince them a certain amount, but then also like downgrade the power and importance and relevance to ritual that those things have.
Well, exactly. You know? So it's not that they weren't fairies. It's just the thing. It's like, you're gods. You know what? They're actually part of this thing, but there's only one real god. Originally, actually, they probably wouldn't even have worded it that way. They would have said like, they are gods, but this is the god of the gods, and then slowly Like, actually, there's only one real God, and it's so interesting. But actually, historically, from what I've read, the adoption of Christianity in Ireland, I don't know about England, or maybe that's even further back, but was very, very easy and they were very accepting of it, like because they integrated it so well, and they actually, it was a great period of peace. Before the English, where Christianity and the local folklore was like working really well together, and it was a really prosperous time. Yeah, I want to talk about how we're coming into this blind and we haven't talked in a little bit, but also it's this kind of paradox of playing on demand, which is something I've been investigating recently, because, and I should probably set this up with, we have had lots of discussions. I mean, we've been doing this a long time, so maybe that's something to say. We're doing this a long time. When did we meet? Because I actually kind of want to go back that far.
20. Okay, no. So we started Deep Sea technically in 2020, but we must have known each other through like the Adam, Harry, Mark vibrational field of shed and parties and all that. Probably for at least like a year or two before that.
But when did we start meeting in the park? Because I think that's, as in the very first, like, when you were still living in Clapham.
Yeah. The very first, almost like the very first. After I sent you that, the sort of incomprehensible script of being like, dude, you thinking a YouTube channel? Check this out,
Yeah.
After that, that's 2020.
Okay,
yeah. Because that was lockdown. It was just pre-lockdown, maybe. It was just pre-lockdown. And then we went into lockdown. And then we were meeting up in the park.
Yeah, and then we were meeting up in the park.
Yeah.
And then, and then we had our lovely experience.
Yeah.
Yes. So, 5 years ago, it's probably a little bit longer, but like, I guess the formalizing of our creative partnership was 5 years ago. And it has been like being married in a very interesting way. Creative marriage. And I think we've gone through some really interesting phases. And we're in a new one. So I think it could be cool to talk about it. Because it is also, impacting our latest decisions around all of this. And there's been a little bit of a cynical part of me that over the years, because I guess like when we started, it was like, wow, it's funny enough, it started with you talking about YouTube. Then we went, we started a company, we did freelance work. I was doing freelance work, and then we had an office and we did like actual client work and all this stuff. And I feel like we've been beating around the bush for like 5 years in a way.
Yeah.
But not in an unnecessary way.
No.
But in a way that had to happen. But, and it's funny because I feel that even in this very moment, because the thing that we most, I don't know if it's want, desire is probably the wrong thing to bring into this, but the thing that we are aiming at and that we want to be doing and surrounding ourselves with the most is happening right now. And I don't know about you, but I still feel that kind of like, of like, doing it. And it's, which is normal, I think. But we've been doing that on a large scale, I feel like, for years. And it's coming now, we've been circling. If you think about the middle of whatever this concept is like the axis mundi is like the heart of the thing we want to be doing. And we've been circling it, and we're getting closer and closer and closer in. And as you get closer in, it is actually scarier. But it's closer to the meaning of the thing you're aiming at. And it might not look like what we thought it might, and it hasn't at all. It's been constantly changing. And so, I guess what I'm saying is we're led all the way up to this point where we've gone, I feel like where we're at is that, this podcast can be, is set to be this sort of consistent every 2 weeks for now of what we think we're capable of doing, because that's important. Of like sitting down, we're going to catch up, we're going to talk about the projects, we're going to talk about what we're doing.
Yeah.
And another very, I don't know, I suppose interesting part of what's happened is that, there's been periods where we've, I don't know, like we felt like we were so close and the connection there is so strong, and it kind of engulfed, I think, both of our creative spirits, where they were sort of joined in such a way that we almost felt bad if we wanted to do something with each other. In this kind of codependent way, I suppose, in a creative sense. And we've gone through sort of a period of kind of separation in a healthy way that doesn't always feel good, but now, which has led to this decision of this channel being our documentaries and joint projects, and this podcast. So this podcast being the consistent heartbeat, and then the projects, which, making films takes time, obviously. So those are, well, we can talk about the next one because it's very close. But yeah, and then the podcast also bringing on the guests of the documentary projects that we work on as well, and it being very much focused around that. But then us having our own separate channels as well. Yeah. However, if we want to, however we want to, whatever. And so I suppose, where we're at now is that we formalize this project in a way that feels like, okay, we know this is the framework. And in the past, I think we've sort of been too obsessed with frameworks. I feel like for 5 years of like trying to find the right framework. And maybe that's, just the way, I think it's the way it was meant to be. But now it feels like we've gotten to a place where we've learned so much from each other. I mean, I've definitely learned, huge amount from you. And we still are. But, I don't know. It feels good now. It's good. And so I've been thinking a lot about, how to stop avoiding, and it's been very helpful because you brought in the concept of the puer, the eternal child. And I mean, there's just so much here, but I don't know, just now being here, I suppose, maybe I'll finish my ramble on this, is that what I've realized is what we're doing, certainly what's happening with me, and I think it's happening with both of us, is the sacrifice. And sacrifice sounds daunting and scary and Christian but actually is a necessary thing of this, which is the sacrifice of perfection. And I know it's said a lot of like, oh, you can't be perfect, but of the sacrifice of some kind of perfect framework or model. And the reward of that sacrifice is actual creation, actual manifestation of, what you want to be doing. So instead of having these images or ideas in your mind and waiting until there's this perfect way of doing it or whatever, and I guess that's right, the foundation of the puer, of the eternal child that you brought up is really interesting. So that's kind of where I feel, and it's a bit of a scary place in some ways, because now we're here in front of a camera and it's like, oh yeah, this is it, right, man? Like we're here. Like there's nothing else. Like that's it. There's no future. There's we're here. And I'm almost finished a documentary that's going to be released on this channel. That's scary. I'm doing the color grade on it. And now I'm thinking like, oh, this is it. Like I can't make it any better. Like it's never going to be better than it is. It's just what it is. And so now we need to release it and do the next one. But I guess it's just being here. We're here. We've done it. We've already done it, actually. That's probably a good way of thinking about it.
Feel it presently as your future as your present. I definitely struggle with that. Have been struggling for some time, freaking out. But also, side note, has James agreed? Does he? Yeah.
Oh, no, I haven't talked to him yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. I think I kind of want to talk to you, but he yeah, I mean, I don't really want to be chopping up this podcast. So yeah, James is the subject of the next film that's being released.
Yeah.
And the idea that we want to do, and I guess we can cut this out if it doesn't work out, but the idea is that we want to bring on the subjects of our documentaries onto the podcast as the kind of companion episode. You know, I guess like Joe does a.
Well, we did that with Tom. You know,
so
we've
exactly.
already done it. You know,
kind of, yeah. And the actual film we released wasn't the one that we were talking about, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, we've done a bunch with him, but yeah. But the other element of that we're gonna try, I want to try, is watching the films for the first time with the documentary subjects to capture that process raw, and then immediately after that doing the podcast with them to get that immediate reaction. And I'm actually
to make it clear, as long as they're okay with that.
Yeah. Oh well, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. We don't spring it on them and go like, "Hey, by the way, we're gonna watch this, then jump on the pod." You know, we go, "By the way, this is what we're planning. Would you be cool to do that?" And if they finish watching it and they go, "I have some thoughts. I don't want to share them on the podcast," then that's fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Obviously.
So of course, all that stuff.
Yeah. No, that's very, very important.
Yeah.
But I am. That to me feels really good. That feels like such a good idea.
Yeah.
And a very interesting thing, because I've never seen that before. I've seen some versions of that maybe, but not in this way where it's like this next film, for example. I mean, it's very heavy, you know, it's very, very deeply personal. And of course, you know, he's on board with it and we've shot it and he hasn't seen it yet, but he knows he's signed a release and he's very comfortable talking about the things he's talking about.
Yeah.
But the moment of watching it, like part of me doesn't want to watch it with him because it's so deeply personal and, you know, it makes me emotional watching it. I mean, I've become a bit numb to it because I've had to obviously edit it. But yeah, it's heavy stuff and part of me wants to shy away from that real human moment, but I know that that's not the right thing to do. And as you said, all the dangers of it, which is like if they didn't, you know, were like, oh, actually, you know, I don't know if they got emotional or angry or whatever it was, and their reaction to it, and then they went, oh, I don't want that on the channel. They'll be like, yeah, cool, that's fine, obviously. So that, you know, all the safety mechanisms are there, but it's just the moment of raw humanity of just like, oh man, is he gonna like? And also just for us of like, is he gonna like it? Is he not gonna like it? Is he like, have we misrepresented? That's the other thing. It's like, what if he watches it and he goes, that's not me, or like you kind of made it feel like I did that, but I didn't, and I don't think that will happen because that's not what we do. But it's you just never know how people will react to themselves. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a scary thing, but I think if it works, it's good. And but yeah, there's obviously part of me that kind of wants to shy away from it. But that is, I think, the process we're doing now, which is just consistently doing it. And so yeah, we'll chat about a day. I'll ring him and then we'll see if we can set it up. But he hasn't. Yeah, I haven't rang him yet, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
God, I keep having to correct my. I think that's also just generally my freaking posture. I think it's, you know, you get that as... Maybe not that, but you get bad lower back as a teacher's posture in primary school. The lower back, it's not good, you know, because you very rarely do the baby squat to get down to the level that you should be at for these tiny little primary school kids. And so you end up doing this bending like this. And then you're there for like 10 minutes. You know, and then you go, oh, what have I done? You know? So, yeah, I think that's partly why I'm like...
Yeah, well, I've just got bad. I think we all as a rule have bad posture, unless we are literally out every day
doing the stuff,
jumping around on trees and stuff, which I know you do a lot, but
not enough.
Not every single day.
Yeah, that's why I'd like to live in a place that isn't so seasonal, because it's summer and I'm like, climb, dance, and then it's like the rain comes. Yeah. But yeah, to come back to what you were saying about the phases, you know, and our evolution as deep sea. Yeah, I'd say that, you know, we were at this kind of stage in terms of just the most recent one of having deciding like, well, we do want to go ahead with doing it on the channel, and we're kind of happy to not go down what we'd previously been down, which was the kind of commercial route of things, and that being our viability of success, and just go, hey, you know, we both got full-time jobs. How about, like, in the time that we have, let's just do what we want to do. And that comes out as it can come out, and we just put it on the channel. And like, if you're doing that, then that's what it is, you know, you're doing it. Because whenever we're doing it, whenever we're actually filming a documentary or doing a thing, you're like, this is, you know, this isn't for something else. There's not the ulterior, like, You're just like, man, it's here. We're sharing in this moment and being with them. I think it was the where we came to, you know, and was this place, and that's why, you know, I sort of simplified it in a way, and then allowed us to both be like, let's go and reflect and think of how we feel on this. You know, it's like, now, like, do we want, like, the stuff that we make? Because, like, you're gonna want to make stuff that you want to make just by yourself. Maybe it's like video essays, you know, from like you were doing with YouTube Explained, you know, and me, you know, maybe I'm going on a van trip with Natasha, and it's just like, let's go film this thing, or let's go do that, and working with somebody, and it's sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of began to multiply, disperse the kind of the number of different possibilities and ends. And it was like, okay, do we want this to all exist under one umbrella that will be like the Deep Seat channel? Or do we want the Deep Seat channel to be our work that we do together, and then all of the other branching possibilities of expression can exist on our own independent channels, you know? And we both kind of like sat and reflected on it for a bit, and it was very funny coming back after we were both kind of at the same place of just realizing, like, trusting the emotion and going, I'm really excited to do my own channel, you know? And go away. I'm really excited to do my own channel, and you're excited to get back into doing your channel. So I think, you know, let's do it that way. And I think that has kind of re-sparked, you know, the kind of the imagination and possibility in those dimensions. So yeah, I've been very kind of happy with this iteration of things, for sure. I think that I've been in a difficult place with that creative relationship, because I was in a good place maybe about month to 2 months ago, maybe more like 2 months ago. And that was when I had discovered Dr. K's video on the Puer Aeternus. And it was a short, and then I watched the whole thing, and as I was watching it, I was just going, like, screaming to myself, like, Alex, don't let this be just another self-help video. Like, actually, like, and it actually changed, but it's very contradictory, because if you watch that video, it's like there's nothing you can do about it, in a sense. And to try simplify the kind of concept of that is that, you know, the Puer Aeternus is that creative child within yourself that that when you are kind of struck by lightning, you have this creative idea, and then you follow it, and you do you're in the flow state of it. It's that whole kind of process. But where it's not unhealthily, where it's not fully integrated into an individual, is that the person who is, you know, a Puer Aeternus, but it is an archetype, but the person who is, and seeing this and realizing, wow, like, this is just my life for the past 10 years, as I'm watching and going, you know, it's I'm trying to think of the best characterization in a simple way. But it's having a very deep fantasy world in which there are all these different creative possibilities for the future. And yet you can't seem to commit or follow through to any one of them. And I think at its simplest sense there, I'm hoping, if anyone is watching, that is wrung out to a lot of people. You know, just that idea of like, I think a lot of people have that deep fantasy, you know, imaginal realm, you know, like they identify so deeply with this rich inner texture of their own imaginative universe. And yet when it comes to making that happen in real life, it doesn't fulfill. And the reason for that, in multiple sort of iterations, is that, you know, you may get that spark of imaginative desire. It's not that, you know, you can't work, because there's that misapprehension that somehow it's like, oh, people who have that can't like do the work. But the thing is, you can, because you'll have these moments where you're hit by creative inspiration and you're in the flow state and you're doing it for 2-3 days. You're writing the book, you're doing the painting, you're editing the project, whatever it is, right? And then that flow state, struck by lightning element of it starts to kind of go, and you try to kind of keep pushing through, but then you go, oh, it's not, and you take it as like, oh, it's not meant to be this. So you switch to the other one, because there are 1,000 other possibilities. You have 100 doors in front of you, you know, and you don't, and if you're not struck by lightning continuously to one of those ones, then you go, oh, it must be because this isn't what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to do something else, right? And it's understanding that is really, it's coming from a fear. I'll speak about it from my experience at least, is that I would, like, once things began to get hard, it's easier for me to tell myself, well, that's because this isn't what it's meant to be. I'm meant to do something else. Like, at an unconscious level, it's easier to do that and go, when it strikes, and that's when it's meant to be. So I know it's there when it's there, and I can follow that. And it's easier to tell yourself that than to say, oh, really confront, like, oh, what if I can't do this? That's so much scarier. Like, for it to get hard, and then you go, oh, shit, like, what if I'm not everything I think I am in my deep imaginative universe? What if I'm not this genius, creative Salvador Dali, Leonardo da Vinci, Quentin Tarantino, you know, David Foster Wallace, blah, you know? And so it's so much safer to go, it's not going to be this, go to something else, than to actually have to push through and go, like, maybe I actually have to, like, continue and work at this, you know? And there's going to be some work involved. And the reason that you can't overcome this, he says in the video, by just like doing work, right, is because you can just fill your day with like things to do. And so the expression that I love that I got from this is like, you'll move mountains to avoid molehills, right? There is the smallest thing that is to do with what is the next step in whatever your creative journey or whatever it is that you have to do. But to avoid doing that, you'll be like, well, I've got to do all my washing, and actually, you know, there's this book that I really need to read about that thing, and I'm going to read the whole book, and you'll do all these other side quests to avoid confronting the of what it is. And so so being very honest with yourself about looking at everything and going, okay, like, doing any of these, does this deal with what I know I have to be doing? And this is where, you know, say what you will about Jeff Bezos, it's a useful quote where I saw on a YouTube short where he goes, you know, stress does not come from hard work. Stress comes from avoiding not doing the thing you know you should be doing. And you're not doing that. And so noticing within myself, you know, it's like, when I'm not doing that, I'm stressed. And then when I'm stressed, I develop all these little like coping mechanisms to try and get me just a little break from the stress. I go, oh God, I haven't done that. But I've been working full time and I do this thing. And I go, oh, you know, I'll just have a little of this or do a little of that. And then I can watch the TV, and then I'm a little, all these different little coping mechanisms that we develop to deal with the stress, which doesn't come from the hard work, which comes from not confronting that molehill, you know, because you can fill your day with all the different things you need to do. And yet comes to the end of it and you still go, you still got that feeling because you're like, I know that, but I haven't done the thing, you know? And so, yeah, from that video, what I kind of realized and was trying to recalibrate, and this is when I was in a good place like a couple months ago, was realizing that for me, it's like when I'm confronted with that toughness feeling, that hard, oh, it's not the lightning struck, I'm going to do this thing or anything like that, in some sense, it's like I have all these negative voices in my head that come from this fixed mindset from when I was a kid, and I don't know how long I got it for, you know, and all these fantasy ideas about, you know, who I am or what I'll be and all that sort of stuff. And it comes in and goes, well, you know, if you can't do this, then you can't really do anything. And, oh, you should be able to do this. Maybe you're not as smart as you think you are. Maybe you're not as creative as you think you are. Maybe you're not as that. And it creates, as it builds, it creates this stress. And so that's why it's like, you can only get so far into it until you just go, oh, like I need to give myself a break. I'll give this, have a go at it again another time, you know, because I deserve a break after all that. But it's just this inner like, that's been happening. And it's because it's based around, you know, achieving that thing, right? Like I've got to achieve that thing. And so I had to start to recalibrate it and go, you know, it doesn't really matter what the molehill is. It doesn't matter what it is in life, you know. If you're deciding to work on it, even just a little bit, you know, whatever that is, then it's working with the way. So it's not. Oh, I had this written down way better before and I had it. It's not address the, like, it's not addressing doing things. It's addressing the way you approach.
Attending to the way you do things?
Yes, attending to the way you do things. That was it. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, because that was it. So it's not attending to doing the things you know you should do. It's attending to the way you approach doing the things you know you should do. And so for me, I realized I was like, I have to start like cultivating a loving relationship with myself around like even trying to do it, rather than, you know, all these, you know, dark negative voices getting at it and doing this whole sort of thing. And that even in doing so, if something's tough and I'm choosing to go for it anyway, like I am like becoming more courageous. You're working on becoming more courageous in confronting the thing you know you should confront. Oh, is it good? Hold on, point that. And so it's redefining kind of success rather than like, oh, I've got to get 1 minute of this done today. I've got to get with this much of it done today. It's just going, as long as I'm touching this every day, then that means I'm working on being more loving and caring towards myself in attending to things. And I'm becoming more courageous in attending to those things. And those are the things that generalize to whatever it is you're doing. So rather than getting fixated, you know, on the specific task that you're doing and I've got to complete it, it's just attend to the way that you're even doing that. And if you're coming back to that and you have less shame or guilt or fear or whatever towards that, because you're more loving towards yourself, or you're going into it more with excitement, like that's great, as long as you're touching it every day, you know. And I would say I was in a good place about like 2 months ago around that. And that's roughly when we started to purchase our property in Brighton. And then everything starts to go kind of like sideways. But what's very interesting is sideways because, if I'm being very honest, because you have an excuse. Because there's nothing more stressful than, you know, buying your first property. And there's nothing more stressful than this, and there's nothing more stressful than that. And so you have like the ultimate crutch, and everybody else will reinforce it. Because no one's going to go, hey man, why aren't you touching it every day? And you go, wow, you know, it's been so stressful, you know, purchasing the property in Brighton and doing the whole thing. And they go, bullshit. No one's going to call bullshit. They go, yeah. No, that's fair enough. That is.
Yeah.
We'll just go, oh, yeah. No, that's tough. I see why. Because that's of course we would, you know. But inside yourself, you know, like, you know, you're like, yeah, I could have been, but I haven't been. And then it feeds back into itself, which is actually, ironically enough, then you make the whole process of purchasing more stressful, because you're going, okay, I'm not doing it now, but I will once and that builds.
Once you
because
do
you're not
that,
in the place you're not in the place of, oh, I'm it's here. You're in the, I'll get there.
So you begin to resent,
more stressful.
surely.
Yeah, and you resent it, and you go, I'll get there.
It's got to do this fucking thing. Yeah, it's really annoying.
You've just shifted it.
Yeah, I do that. I do that on a micro scale every day. Yeah. Like, it's so, you know, you're attending to something, even though you kind of know you should be attending to something else. So you hate the thing you are attending because that's actually in the way. But it's not in the way. Yeah. You're the one who's chosen to do this. You could do the thing. Yeah. But you're not.
Yeah. And it's very hard for me to know how to, because there's a part of my brain that when this happens, it almost does, and Jack sadly has this, and he knows he has this to a dysfunctional degree, and that's why I can recognize it here and I say, dude, it's not helpful, which is when something goes wrong, like your brain does this error search through your entire belief structure, right? But there's an inclination to go, there's something at the very foundation of my being. Where's the corrupt file? But it's at the bottom. It's at the bottom. And what is the giant transformation I need to make?
This one big thing, and it will fix everything.
This huge thing that is so fundamentally wrong about me. But if I could make it right, everything would be right. And it's worth the sacrifice. And I think really what that, if I was to say ancestrally where that comes from, it does come from our loss in like sort of rites of passage, especially amongst young men, boys moving into young men, you know, because in some sense that is exteriorized and supported by the whole community, where there's, you know, some part of you that goes, I don't know if I am everything I need to be to become, you know, to be what I need to be in this community. And then you have this whole rite of passage that happens, and all the other men and the elders, you know, of that community, and it's, you know, different flavor, but same thing with, you know, girls becoming women, comes in and says, you did it. Like that, you're ready now. Whatever that thing is that you think is the fundamental thing that means that you're not ready to be that thing, like, you did it. And then, like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you go, right? Like, I'm there. And so I think at that level, that exists, and the extent to which that's useful is very questionable, you know, at least within my context at the moment. But I think that, you know, if I was to say what has come creeping back in but has been present for some time is that, you know, I kind of say it that I think that, and I can't speak for women for how the flavor of this is for women, because it's a different flavor, but I can speak for men, which is that I think from the ages of like 26, 27 into kind of the early 30s, this major psychological shift happens. That for many who haven't confronted their mortality is the first time it's a sort of pseudo confronting of mortality, in that prior to that, you know, your brain is constantly growing and changing all the way up to your 25, and your life has a directionality to it, and you have a directionality in that you are constantly evolving and changing, and that's kind of reinforced by the changes in your environment as to whether it's, you know, progressing through an education system or through friends groups or through interests even. And you have this sense that, like, you're looking at the horizon, you go, look how far away that is. And we're just going, right? And then around about, I think, 26, when the brain has stopped growing and developing, and you have kind of more cemented in your personality, and maybe you've got a more consistent friend group by now, and maybe you're even settled into some sort of pattern or habit or routine. And what was before, when you were in your early 20s, like each almost year is so much more clearly defined as a chapter. You're like, whoa, that was that phase of my life, and then it was the next thing, and then the next thing, and then you get to there, and the years can start to blur, and you're like, when was that?
Condensed.
And how was? And part of that being because you're like, I'm not changing in that same way as much, and there becomes this scary realization that like, I could be like this, and it could all be like this for the rest of my life. And I think there is no coincidence that there's probably that. And within artists and outside of artists, there's this higher rate of accidental and death by suicide around that, the magical 27 number, is because there's this sense that like, if it's always going to be like this, like maybe I don't want to be here. It's like change is guaranteed up until you're sort of maybe 26, 27. And then you realize, well, maybe you don't realize this, but you go, things are only ever going to change if I make the effort, the will to transform myself and transform my environment. Whereas before that, that's just given. It's a given because you've got a growing brain, and you've got changing friends group, and you've got like that. It's like, oh, it's always new. It's always changing. And then you go, shit, I'm like, the years are being the same, and I'm in this same old habit, and I'm not feeling like I'm changing. And therefore, I'm just going to be this. All these deficiencies that I hate about myself and all this, like, I'm going to be trapped in this for the rest of my life, And so suddenly what was like, the horizon's over there, and like, we're just going to keep going. Is like, look how far away the horizon is. And eventually, like, we're going to get there. Suddenly you're like, there's this much time left, And you become aware of like, wait, I really thought I was, all those things that you had, those fantasy ideas of where you would be by this time, you're like, I'm not there. And you go, unless I do something about it now, like, I'm going to wake up when I'm 40 or 50 and go, what the fuck did I do? What the fuck did I do? Right? And that creates this like existential angst and like real confrontation for it for the first time. And I think the flavor of it amongst young men is like that desire to just like, I'm just going to sacrifice and do it. And within my own psychology, the way that I can, say it, is the fear that if I don't do this, I'm going to haunt myself for the rest of my life. I'm always going to doubt and go like, what if you'd done that? And you didn't really, and you knew you could have, and you didn't. And it's almost like, and you wanted to, and you didn't, and it's like, and the terrifying thought that you will live the rest of your life with that hanging over you. Ghosts, you just go, I need to, like, I can't live with these ghosts over my shoulder. Like, because if you do it and you fail, that's fine. And to talk of a previous phase of Deep Sea, we were at like the almost stage of our first feature documentary with a subject. And we got to the point
a real possibility.
We were doing talks with Sky and, Channel 4, and we'd got through to the stages and we're having phone calls, and they go, we really like it. And sadly, it pretty much came back to like, but we've already fulfilled like our quota for those sports type documentary things within like this year, but I really hope that you find it somewhere else and all that. And and if we hadn't had the legal trouble hiccup with our documentary subject, who just got very skittish around the signing of like, we have the ability to tell your life right story, which makes sense because of his history and because his like career now, his livelihood is his story. And so it's very different for someone like that, and we could have maybe have seen that earlier. That's something that we can take from wisdom from that. But, we took that as far as we could. And so I have no ghosts hanging over my shoulder from that.
No.
Because I know that we did everything that we could.
Yeah.
And I was like, great. And we learnt from it, and you can put it to bed.
Yeah, that phase of everything. Yeah, the company.
Yeah.
We had an office.
Yeah.
We were thinking about hiring editors.
Yeah.
We really tried. Like, we did a lot of work. It was a lot of work. We tried really hard. And it was really sad when it didn't work out. There was a mourning period.
And I think in some strange way, like that coincides with the very beginning of that existential kind of angst of that, of that sense of being like, oh, I'm not where I thought I would be, and this is not, a guaranteed and given, and what if I never do it, and then I'll never forgive myself, and I always have this bitterness and resentment. And where it really comes in is not this sense, there's this confusion, right? And I don't want people to have a confusion around like this is about achieving status or money or recognition, right? It's not that. It's about your own experience of reality. And I know this, and I'm sure maybe if you're listening, you may recognize this in yourself when you're looking at somebody else's achievements and you can't appreciate it for what it is because you're bitter or resentful or silently critical in some way, because there's a part of you going, I could do that.
Oh, it's horrible.
But then you go, but I'm not doing that. And so you're therefore, if you don't confront that, your personality starts to deform itself with all these excuses and layers and all that, so you don't have to deal with it and confront it like a trauma. This whole sort of thing that allows you to become this silently bitter, resentful, person around certain degrees of it. Now, say it's an artist, then, it's art, then maybe you can listen to music and it's fine because you're like, I can do that. Like, I'm not a musician. But you'll going to an art gallery will be painful for you. So the thing that you love the most, you will not be able to enjoy for the rest of your life because you'll be bitter about it. 100%. And so to know that, like, that's why it's not because I need people to know that I'm special and I make this thing. Now, of course, that is a voice in your head and you got to deal with that, right? But to know that it comes from the place of like, I love this thing. I want to do this thing, and I want to be able to celebrate and enjoy when other people do this thing. And if I don't do it myself, when other people do it, there's going to be a part of me that tightens, there's pain, and unconsciously lashes out at them about it. Because they'll go, what do you think of the thing? And you go, there's just, even if you don't actually say anything, unconsciously in the vibrational field, they'll feel it. They'll feel it, and they'll go, oh, I have this cold feeling inside. Like he said, like perfectly okay things about that thing, but I have this cold feeling like you didn't really. And he goes, yeah, it's because you hit a place in him where he didn't do that. And now he can't look at that properly. He can't see the beauty for what it is because it judges him, And so I think that I have been in that place of wanting to make the sacrifice for years now. And I've got to become aware of the way that life presents these excuses, right? Because when it was just after the company not necessarily working out in that sense, and then us going into Sunnybank and having like our own like in-house office sort of thing phase.
So we moved, maybe for people, we moved to a house. And then we had an office in the house because there was this kind of living room that was split into two. And so we had an office space.
So it could be a working living room, office-y area.
Yeah.
And, and at that time, Natasha's mental health took, a bad turn, and mine in turn took a bad turn around it. And my creativity sort of just like died and shut off because when your partner is not in a good place and you're not in a good place, it's like creativity, if you were to look at like Maslow's, hierarchy of needs, it's at the top when all the other needs have been met. Like it's difficult, like as soon as you're in like a poverty mindset or as soon as like a family member is in like trouble, like creativity sort of like suddenly, And so, really, really tough, And then when we moved into your old apartment, funny enough, and you guys bought your first place here, then that year was, that time, Natasha was working full time to be able to save up for our wedding. I was working full time to be able to save up for our wedding, and then it was like, you have no idea how stressful it is to organize a wedding in another country. And like not having a wedding planner. We never even thought of having a wedding planner, but now that I've spoken to more people, you know, the amount of people who started planning a wedding and then realized how stressful it was, and they went, we need a wedding planner, you know, because like I can't do the rest of my life at the moment with this as well. So I just need somebody else to take the brain space and just come to me with decisions. Go A or B, and I go B, bam. But no. It's like, we're contacting caterers, we're contacting things, we're organizing time things. How are we going to get that in and out at that time? So like all this different stuff, you know. And then coming out of that and being like, okay, like that's done now. Surely everything is. And then it's like, oh no, now you're looking for your first property, you know. And now, you know, we have it, but then there's the knowledge of like, we're doing this big renovation project on, not renovation, extension on like the back end next year, and being aware of like, oh, your house is gonna be like a building site for 3 months, you know, and how you're gonna do all the, and so I have this terrified sense, you know, even coming into now being like, oh God, like I can already see the next level of like excuse of thing that is gonna fill your time that you can't do it, you know, anymore, and all this, and so, you know, it's tough because it feels like almost I've been at this place but not knowing how to do it for like years, and then everything kicking in, I would say. But the refreshing part is the spotting my own patterns and how I will avoid, you know, move mountains to avoid molehills, and how, you know, you're not an adult about your relationship with your creative child, because you say like, oh, I want you to hit me with the creative vision. I want you to give me this strike of lightning that's going to get me into this flow state and doing the whole thing. And I want you to do all the hard work. So it's like
all the boring stuff.
So what is it that you're doing? It's like so the fantasy of it is, and this is where you say it out loud, you realize how ridiculous it is. Like, if I'm really doing what I'm supposed to be doing, then it will be like I'm struck by lightning and I'm in a flow state and I'm just gliding through the entire thing, through the whole project, and I'm not even conscious of it. And I'm doing the whole thing, and then it will come to the arrival of it, and then I'll go, here's the thing. And then the next one will hit, and I'll do the exact same thing the whole way through. And you go, it's like you expect if you open that door, you'll be so struck by lightning, you'll just get pulled through it, and you're like, yourself will dissolve, and you'll just be in the moment.
You don't even really want to be doing it.
Yeah.
You just want to be brought to the result.
At a deep level, it's like it comes to that place of like, I think the deep desire for like the annihilation of self, you know?
Yeah.
And I think if you want to understand that, you just got to talk to anybody who's suicidal for a bit, and the desire to like destroy the brain, you know, this trapping self within your, like, I can't even do, you know, so that's a specific flavor of it. But anyway, that sense of it is what it kind of comes into, where it's like you don't want to have to mature and grow up and do the work even when it's not like. So the way I put it, I was like doing the unsexy technical work, you know, doing the work even when it's like unsexy, to just be like there and doing it. And funny enough, this comes into the video that I'm doing on the meaning of documentary film for me, and it's kind of like one of the sort of concluding thoughts of it, but I haven't been able to show any of that to you because I've been on a fucking blah for like, you know, 2 months or something, and it was a moment of progressing in it, and then it's like and it's a very difficult project for me because it's so spanning, and it's so like you know, personal in one sense, but it's going through all this footage from my past, you know, and it's going, and so it's like it's a difficult one, and there's not a clear. I almost envy, you know, there's parts of me that envies when you're doing James or doing a project like that, being like, oh, you just have like the footage, you know, and you have an interview, and then you can arrange the footage, record it, and you move that. I'm like, that's straightforward. I can do that. Like, like the urban opera edit when I was doing that, you know, like that was more straightforward, even though there were like 3 different talking heads and other people's in sort of talking heads, and there was all like that could click and I could follow it along, you know. But this is like, even though I have the script, it's so, I don't know what it is. It's really, it's, but the point is, I am not doing the classic Puer Aeternus thing, which is switching to another thing, going, this is too hard, something else. This is too hard. Well, I guess I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that, you know. It's like, stick to what it is. until its natural end. And I say natural end because you can confront a roadblock that means that you actually shouldn't continue doing that further, or you've learned what you... But the point is, you'll know that when you get to it. Like, for instance, even like us with that documentary feature film.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't make it, but it's because we reached the natural end of it and we learned what we needed to learn.
Yeah, we did a lot of work on it.
And we went for, so it's like, yes. So I think already in that, if I'm trying to follow my own goddamn advice and have a more cultivating, loving relationship with myself, is to say that even in this is already like an evolution in deciding to stick to something and have that as your molehill that you've got to keep attending to, even though you haven't done it for however long and it's unsexy and it's hard work and it's thing, and it's like, it's still there. Like, I know if I go back, that's the thing I have to do. Like, I don't delude myself and go, wouldn't it be, maybe write a sketch for that short that you kind of thought of and do that thing, and then lose yourself in that and then go to, and it's like, no, I know it's that. And in that sense, it makes it more painful now because it's just staying there.
It's there.
And it makes almost the desire, you don't want to follow this desire to be like, I just want to be done with you. Like, if I could just be done with you, then I could go on to like the next thing.
That can get you to sit down in front of the computer.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, after that, let go. But it can get you to sit down.
Yeah.
Like, that happens to me when I'm working on James. I'm like, and you just sit, and then you start color grading or whatever, and it's like, okay.
And that's the smallest level of where I'm at in terms of like just touching it every day, is just being like, you'll be able to have a more relaxing evening if you just like open up the project file. Even if you just open it up, like, you don't have to do anything. Just open it up, look at it, and if you decide to close it, you'll still have a better evening than if you didn't do that,
Yeah.
And so, and yet I have failed to do that. And I should also say, part of how, just in case this is handy for anybody else, part of how I was trying to cultivate that new relationship between myself and creativity and creative pursuit is that I realized I needed to start talking to myself out loud. And it was sort of a kind of self-imposed, not CBT, but of sorts, where I'm just like, I'd just be honest with myself. Like, I'm coming back from school and I go, okay, like, are you too tired to do anything today? I know. And, you sit with it and you know the answer. You go like, okay, you could do something. You go, what would be the something that, is what you need to do? And you go like, along the thing of it, and you're honest with yourself. You go, I could do that. And you go, yeah, but if you did that, do you still have a niggle about? You go, okay, yeah, that's the thing I could do. I'm like, okay, so what's the smallest level of engagement with that you could manage today? I'm like, yeah, maybe I could open the project file and just see if I can find a song for that particular moment of that. I go, yeah, let's do that. And narrating as you're going through, the power of it really, for me, is that we so quickly degenerate into all these negative voices in our heads when we're doing a certain creative pursuit. But as soon as you externalize that and say it out loud, even if you did say that negative thing out loud, like if you're struggling to find out how you can put a certain, film emulation thing on a thing there, and in your head you're just going, well, you're just useless at this. You'll never be able to do it. You say that out loud and you hear it and you go, do I even believe that? Like, that's ridiculous. And you go, yeah, no, I don't. And so through putting it through the filter of bringing it into reality, you are naturally kind of like filtering out so much of that negative, self-doubting, hating, process that you have, and instead just kind of like seeing it from a little bit more of like, the cloud at a distance rather than being lost in it. And it's, I knew it was a sign that I'm not in a good place when I haven't been. It sounds hilariously ironic when I haven't been talking to myself for the past, month or so, because I know that I don't even want to start the conversation, because I know that I'll have to really confront what's going on, and then I'll go, fuck, So I can just go from one thing to the next, and to go on a slight tangent. But I think what has recently, within the last few days, brought me back from what felt like a very dense, twisted place in my mind, was actually listening to Louis C.K. on Theo Vaughn from like 2 months ago or 3 months ago. And kind of like him talking about, all the different things, but in his specific case, it's kind of like love and sex addiction, right? But the role of pornography, but the role of just seeing all these things that you have that allow you to avoid feeling real feelings, right? Because you can go through your whole day, you know, as he puts it, like if you're really aware of like a day under like the big swirling sky, like it's a lot. It's a lot, so it's a lot easier to kind of simplify that. And it's like, I've got work, and then you go, I'm going to watch some TV, and then you go, okay, I'll have a drink, and then I'll have a cigarette, and then, I'm going to watch some porn and masturbate, and then I'm just going to go to, and you can go through your whole day without actually, really having to experience it and confront your feelings around it, because you can just fill it with all these things that are these coping mechanisms for this stress or this existential angst or whatever it is. And I think if I was to put it in a certain way, I think that natural, maybe natural, but that, what I would say, the existential angst and confrontation with mortality that starts to happen from sort of maybe 26, 27 to early 30s. I think we are living in a generation or in a time, and Eric Weinstein puts this really well, where it's the sort of like mass sedation theory, but he's talking more specifically about men, which is that to have such like a disenfranchised and disenfranchised, uninvolved, depressed population of young men, historically speaking, like that's a formula for mass like social upheaval. And he's like, why aren't we seeing that right now? And I think, his idea is that, well, essentially, like, young men are sedated through video games and porn and social media that are all, like, ghost, impoverished simulations of those things that allow you to avoid really confronting what is going on, because you can simulate that you're on this grand romantic adventure through your video games. I got through to level 9 and destroyed the giant beast, and I did this, and it simulates this sense of learning and growth and doing this thing.
It was genuinely hard to do it though as well.
Yeah, and then you have, social media, which can simulate as if, on some level, people like you and you have a relationship with them and that people care about what's going on in your life and that you're connected in a community of people that are always supporting for and caring for each other. And then pornography, which is some sort of visual stimulation as if you're in relationship with that subject or with that something that is doing this thing. And all of that is just allowing things to just be you sedated enough from really having the real feelings of what is going on in your life. You're sort of like freezing yourself. As Louis C.K. But he kind of just like, when you masturbate to pornography and all that, and Theo's like, I struggle to put myself together again the next day and doing the thing. It's like, it's because you kind of like froze yourself. And then the next day, it's kind of like you're thawing out, And I think that, that is sort of like going on in a way that people aren't necessarily confronting that. And that might be part of the reason why people go, there's like sort of this extended childhood, extended, like adulthood, it's like, 30s are your new 20s and this and all that. And people aren't having kids till later. I mean, that's a different thing. I'm not going to, But the sense of maturing at a later age, I think is partly like all of these different technologies that we have allowing us to put off the difficult feelings that you have to confront to mature, and but the terrible thing is, and this is why I'm kind of worried about it, but maybe by the time, like until they become so unbearable that you have to confront them, but wouldn't you rather confronted that a decade ago? Like the shit and existential angst and all that sort of stuff that, you're feeling, wouldn't you rather have confronted that at 29 than 39? Because at 29, maybe you have less of the about, I have time to maybe do something about it, to course correct, to do this. But like at 39, maybe it turns in on itself. At 39, maybe it's more likely to turn in on itself, where it's nihilism and depression and loneliness and there is no hope for it, and I'm just gonna I'm just gonna sedate myself so I don't have to confront these things for the rest of my life, or just allow myself to become bitter and resentful for fucking eternity. Slightly lost my train on that.
I need to pee really badly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that quickly.
Yeah, go pee.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Nice.
Okay.
Also, I remembered why I brought that up was just in terms of that has helped just within this last week of coming kind of back into a little bit more of feeling like here, you know, and are willing to engage with real feelings and just kind of sit with it a bit more. Because he said it really beautifully said, you know, like emotions are kind of like fire, you know, and you don't want to get completely lost in them because then you get burned. But you also don't want to turn away from them because, you know, they're warm and then you lose the warmth, you know. And so he's like, anytime, and I spot this when I have this addiction, anytime I see kind of like this intense feeling come up that would start an addicted behavior, you know, I notice that, you know, if I pull away from it, it always makes it worse. It always makes it worse. But if I get right up in it and I just go, you know, like, what do you got? You know, and you're actually willing to sort of sit with it, then I see all these things and I see these colors and whatever. And so I've been trying to be, just in terms of that, it's been like, okay, this feeling that you're feeling like you're having now, and then you're going to go do some sort of little sedation to deal with it, you know, because you're like, and you go, well, maybe TV or the thing or what, you know, like, how about you just try like sit with that for a second more, you know, just a second more. Same thing as like, just touch it for today. Just touch it. And you go, okay, just for 5 seconds more, do you think you can sit with this and then just go watch your TV program or fill yourself up with food or do something that's going to distract you? Just one bit more. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, okay.
So that's why I wanted to connect this to, is I think this is that, obviously. I mean, so firstly, what I wanted to say is that, you know, well done for being here, and both of us.
Yeah.
But I know that I don't know, I have felt, I've been in a place, so I was like, part of me, I had this almost, kind of negative, like, oh, it's probably not going to happen. So I was like, oh, yeah, this thing. And then I was like, oh, but if, you know, because we had this in the diary for a while, which is also part of our evolution, because we didn't it used to be much more like, I don't know, because again, I think because of that fear of like, and it's like, if we put it in a diary or we make a schedule, that means that we have to do it. And if we don't do it, the excuse, whatever that excuse is, will be very apparent. You shine a light on it because you're saying, well, we agreed to this weeks ago, so why aren't we doing it? You know, obviously, if somebody dies, you know, obviously there's scenarios where, you know, it makes sense. But most, like 99% of the time, you know, whatever that excuse is going to come to light. But and I know that, you've been doing a lot of stuff with moving and then, you know, all the things. And then we didn't meet up recently, and I was like, okay, so, if that comes up again, I mean, I don't know, it's hard because I wasn't, if you had said, oh no, we're not going to do this, I don't think I would be able to say, oh, I don't know, to be in some way confrontational and say, oh, well, what about, maybe we should be doing that to each other very slightly, not in like but just to like, okay, just let's, what is it? And have a conversation maybe. But to transmute that, that's not really what I wanted to more say, was like, I feel like you have, because I don't know how you feel. My feeling was that you probably, from what you're saying as well, you could have very easily gone, this isn't the right time. I'm not going to do the podcast.
I mean, I am to some degree still kind of was sleep deprived. I was very sleep deprived Monday. I mean, I experienced insomnia, so that's kind of like a given. But Friday I went in and I'd gone so deep into the sleep deprivation and other things. I think I had like 3 hours sleep or something like that I had a buzz. Friday was a great day. You know, it's one of those times, and anyone who's been on enough sleep deprivation knows you get the illusion, you think,
it could be fun.
This is me functioning at my highest level. And then you go, where are my keys? And you're just like, all right, there's a lot of basic.
It feels like being drunk.
Some basic stuff you're slipping up on, you know.
It's dangerous.
And so it was that, and then last night, you know, being with friends, you know, sort of like again, and going to bed late, and then having to wake up early this morning to drive Natasha to work, and then I came back and I was like, I'm gonna try and get some sleep, and I think I probably managed to get like, when did I go to sleep? I probably went to sleep around about like 10ish, and then I woke up, had an alarm for 11:30 because I wanted to be here for 12, and then I was like, okay, you know, and I get the legs out of bed. I was like, well, let's do okay, but one sec, close my eyes. Then it's 12. I was like, I'm gonna be there at 1 man. I was like, sorry about this, you know. But yeah, it's you know, I think that it's been a lot recently, but I think a couple kind of realizations that happened kind of just around the podcast itself, and that's why I was like, I really want to try and come into this just like raw in a way, of just going, because like each week it's almost like we have a catch up, and then we separately have a podcast. You know, and I was like, but what if we, you know, like, what if we just, and I kind of got inspired from, you saw a little bit of Nobody Wants This, but it's these two sisters, and like their catch up is their podcast. You know, they share their thoughts on what's going on and catch up with each other, all that. And it's so kind of like open and like laying everything bare. And I think I have a, like 2 hiccups on that. Like one is, like that, you know, that sort of fear of, I think, how do you put it? I'll go with the other one first. The other one is just because of being like a teacher and feeling like, oh, there's some level of like accountability that has to, you know, like if this got seen by a thing in a school, you know, all the paranoid thoughts around that, you know. And then like the other is that kind of sense of, because I'm someone who is very selective about who I'm open with, and so the idea of opening up like non-discriminatorily, to whoever decides to click on a thing, is like runs very against my natural systems. Like we've even had, you know, where we're at a party and I meet a friend of a friend and I immediately have that sense of like, you know, like I can't trust him. And I will like shut down. I'll be perfectly polite. I'm just like, this, all that. But I will not open up anything personally because I'm like, I don't want to give you ammunition because I don't trust you. And I know that you at some point could maybe use this against me, you know? And so to be of that, it's cool what it is, slightly paranoid, inflection, but also just very selectively, you know, selectively open, and then deciding to be like, oh, we're just going to talk like friends for anybody to hear is like, there's that level of like, what? You know, like, is this? So it's difficult. My view of both in some way was that not doing it would be more painful than doing it. Because it's the very same thing of like, you know, I think of the amount of inspiration that I've taken from hearing certain podcasters and when their heart is open.
Yeah.
And I was just going, you know what? Like it's more painful to close yourself off and ask anybody to listen than the pain of opening and getting whatever might be some negative judgment, feedback, consequences from that.
Yeah.
And so doing that, I was like, okay, this is different now, you know, and I'm like, I'm excited to do it. And I'm excited in a sense to lay things bare and also know that like, if we decide that there's a thing in it that we go, maybe we'll cut that, you know, that's fine. Like, maybe we'll cut that, you know, whatever. But to kind of like really be able to have that as just like this, just being like a continuation of our friendship, not like a separate enterprise.
100%. That makes me really excited.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's that Martin Scorsese quote keeps coming back to me of what is the most personal is the most creative.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I wanted to add on, I guess, to the whole Puer Aeternus thing is almost, the sort of solution to that. And the solution, I mean, in a sense, I don't want to blanket this, but it feels to me, at least in my experience in my life, it is sort of, it's paradoxical. It's not the solution to everything because you make it not the solution by putting that pressure on it. But in a sense, what does solve all of these things, and again, solve is a weird word to use, but confronts, it is that confrontation of of all of this. So it's the negotiating with yourself, it's the communication with yourself, and the raw, authentic communication and confrontation of everything around you. So that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And I think what that is, I don't know if it's analogous to, or it is actually that, but is meditation. Because I think that this is a meditation. This is a talking meditation. I was really blown away the first time we did this. I was like, this is a talking meditation.
Yeah.
Now, the first, and similar to actual sitting meditation, the first 30 minutes, which by the way, I think I was just cut out because I think we were just getting warmed up and whatever, and like, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that at first it's a bit like, I'm not sure. And then you kind of, once you let go, you get into that space of not being so attached to what you think you are or should be, and whatever comes is okay. And so that will allow your insecurities to come up and you can see them and go, okay. And you can see that. And then that's sort of the basic function, I would say, of meditation, is to stop and to allow the dust to settle. And I don't think that's enough, because I think once the dust has settled, then you go, okay, now I'm going to clean the dust. I do, it's like, I can see my insecurities. Great. What are the steps to do it? That isn't necessarily going to come from that space of, because that's the problem of being attached to it, because you say, I want to just be peaceful and be calm. And you get into lovely places. You have lovely feelings sometimes in meditation. You have these, you can leave your body if you want. It can be really powerful experiences, but that's nice. But but is that helping your, what's the next step that is going to enable you to, not progress, but just to be a more authentic human being? And I think that's what we're doing now. Yeah. And so I'm really glad that you came and you wanted to do this kind of raw, and I really wanted to. And I think that's the ritual of this will be really strong and important to keep ourselves in check in some way. But again, it's hard not to use this sort of big daddy authoritarian language. Maybe we can use it and transmute it and think about it differently, maybe, but it's just to keep that mutual support going. I think that's the other side of it, right? It's the community aspect of. Now, I'm not gonna call you a pussy ass bitch, but maybe I'll just ask some questions. Maybe I'll just say, "Oh, okay, so what is that?" And then we can have a conversation, as opposed to, and that I don't know. I guess that's a very masculine thing as well. Of we don't often have those spaces, amongst men. In fact, I want to tell this little anecdote while I'm on that, because it sort of baffled me. On their local Facebook page, which you're also on, there's a guy who's organizing a men's walk every Friday morning in the park. I might go check it out. We'll see. But what actually almost made me want to check it out even more was the comment section. And we're getting into these sort of realms of delusion on social media. But still, it's a useful thing to see it, because it's like, whoa. Yeah. It was there's not many people commenting, but there was one man and one woman in particular who were both really going, like, this lady was like, oh, how the patriarchy suffers, and you need this space, and it was very, very condescending, horrible spirit that's emerging of like, and the guy who posted it was responding really calmly and saying, oh, well, this is actually just for men to, just to be with each other. And, we have burdens. And so, it's nice to talk and share and connect. And her response to that was, oh, how the patriarchy suffers. And it's written down, but I could hear that voice in my head, right? And this other guy was saying, oh, if you don't include everyone, it's exclusionary, and it's this and that. And it's horrible. And and I'm not trying to ride that train of like the woke or whatever the thing is, but it's like, never in a million years would that be said about a women's group. And my point isn't to say, oh, look, this is horrible, but it's just to be like, it just points at a reality of men not having these spaces. And I do have to say, when I go, a long time, and that could even just be 2 weeks of us not meeting or me not meeting another male friend. And we both have partners, and we stay with them, and it's obviously, it's amazing. It's great. I wouldn't change a thing.
We wouldn't change anything. We are both deeply in love with our wives.
Oh, they're great.
They fulfill our all and every desire.
Perfect. It's just perfection is what it is. But at a certain... I'm going to shoot myself. No, but we need it. We need, at some point, like, when I don't have that, that's what I was saying, it just gets like... I almost notice my voice change. The way I'm speaking now. You know? It's like I notice it's a bit softer, and it's a bit like, oh, no. And maybe we're doing good. And it gets like, and I notice I start even speaking to myself that way sometimes. Or actually no, it's almost the opposite. It's almost to myself becomes more harsher because it's almost in a response to the overwhelming feminine energy around me. It's like, and then in myself sometimes like, oh, you fucking bitch, you fucking, you know. So we need that. We need this. Is what I'm saying, and it's a ritual. I think is really important. And talking about us doing our own channels and things. So I'm working on a video that I'm gonna rebrand YouTube Explained. I don't know if that will have happened by this comes out, whatever. I don't even know who's watching. Probably doesn't matter. But I'm gonna rebrand that as just me, just Vincent, right? And I'm doing this video as a kind of not a comeback thing, but just the first thing that I'm putting up there since, changing it from YouTube Explained to whatever this new thing will be. It's just me. And one of the themes that came up in this free flow writing thing that I did, which is kind of the basis of the script, is just that, I have loads of questions. I don't know what it is to be a man. That came up. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to juggle all these things. And there's this immensity of life and uncertainty. And as you said, there's like, oh, we're moving, or we're doing this renovation, or we're doing this, or, and there's always going to be life. Something is always going to be going wrong, or something needs attention. So as long as I can come back to this place consistently as a ritual, then I can protect that, then this will always be here as, in Buddhism, they call it taking refuge, right? Or another way, and Jack told me this, was Jack, by the way, is my lovely brother, who hopefully is watching. Shout out to Jack. He once said to us, well, he said to me, but it was to us. He said that, because I was talking to him about, we're going to do these documentaries and we do the podcast, and the people from the documentaries are going to come into the podcast, and it's going to be this really cool thing, and then we can do behind the scenes videos and da. And whenever I talk about it, I get so excited. And I was talking to him about that, and he kind of nodded and he said, yeah, I think you and Alex should treat this as your dharma. And I think that's another amazing term to take from Buddhism, because it's like a more, to me, I feel like it's a better version of duty. It means work. It means the actual doing of the things. But it's almost like a predestined work. It's like it is duty, but it's also karma in some way. It's almost karmic. It's like, this is your dharma. You can choose to not do it. That's a possibility. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about. It's the avoidance of all this. But when you are doing it, you feel a sense, well, not necessarily when you're doing it, but when you're consistently doing it across time in your life, you have this feeling, whether it's when we were doing our film, like The Company, or when I was doing YouTube Explained and I was sticking to a schedule and I was making the videos, like, there's a sense of feeling aligned with reality, because you are doing what you're meant to be doing. And that's dharma. And, I think that's what, in a sense, is the antidote to all this, is the ritual, is the coming back to it consistently. and yeah, like, you know, let's sit here again in a week or whenever the next one is. And yeah, maybe we're feeling a certain way. We're feeling like this, and things are bad or things are good. And you just say it and you just do it.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, basically this podcast can be the sort of symbol of that, in a sense. It's like the foundation, you know.
Yeah.
And in one very simple sense, it's also practical because documentaries take a while to make. So we can't be putting out a documentary, you know, every week. But we can do this. And yeah, and that's even without thinking about if people are going to like it and if it's going to be successful. But it's just for us, like, this is the direction. We want to build a channel. We want to be doing these things consistently. If we're going to do it, let's really try and do it. And this is what it takes. And we're going to do it. And now that we're here and we're doing it, I love it. I don't know how you're feeling. I really like this. This is brilliant. Yeah. I love doing this stuff. That's the whole reason we're doing it. But yeah, it's all the other stuff in between that just, has to be confronted, I suppose. Yeah. Which we are doing right now. And I think it's just bringing it back to the present, isn't it? And that's, again, what meditation is. You just come here, where you are right now. What's the feeling? What's the thing? It feels bad. Okay, what is that?
Yeah.
I could very much imagine content around, like, come along with us as we produce this.
Well, yeah, that's the hope.
And that would be, you know, so say, obviously it would have to still be in collaboration with them, because you'd have to say with Crawley, you'd have to say, oh, we also have this YouTube channel. We want to do a video about the process of this. And maybe that's just me coming in and doing that while you guys are doing the actual thing. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
And they'd still have to agree and all that, but I think, why wouldn't they, when it's like, oh, extra, there's just an extra thing being made, and we'll run it by you in case there's anything you don't like,
and there's
whatever.
Possibilities of further, because, like, for instance, the Freewheelers Theatre one, we clearly saw it as like, this could be a feature documentary. You know, it was so fascinating. It was so interesting. To just give a bit of context to it, it was, you know, it's a disabilities charity, and the project was called Us and Them, and it came from someone having found the sort of like the negatives of the medical files of disabled peoples in the Surrey Hospital in the late 1800s. And it's a particular photographic technique called, oh man, how have I forgotten the name of it? This is very, anyway, it doesn't matter. I will see if I can find that later. But one of the disabled members of the charity kind of seeing it goes, you know, that could have been us. And that sort of sparked this whole process of like looking through the old medical files of disabled peoples that were put into sort of asylums for conditions that we would consider like now, you know, neurodiverse and disabilities, you know, not something you would be locked up in an asylum for, you know, and to see how they were portrayed and their stories, and each of the kind of patrons would find a connection with someone from their past, and it was sort of reinterpreting that history by people of today who you know, who were sort of disabled, who were disabled, and seeing them and connecting with those people of that time. And they really liked our pitch and they really liked our ideas, but this was all to create a 5 to 10 minute. But when we talked to them, it was like, I was like, would you mind if it was longer? You know, because this is what happened with Urban Opera. You know, they asked for this thing, and then we ended up creating a half-hour documentary. And you know, they were open to that idea, and it was for an exhibit that they were putting on next year, which was a combination of the photographs that are being redone by this photographer Emma Brown, who's taking their portraits nowadays using that same photographic technique, but the difference is they get to choose how they're portrayed in it. So they get to come in with like the clothes and the thing or whatever of how they want to see themselves, you know, how they would like to be seen. And And so it's an exhibit of those photographs of the findings of going through the files, the oral history files, you know, with the oral historian, the company like On the Record, who is, I can't remember the name of the woman who does that, but she was really good. We met her in the interview. And then the 5 to 10 minute film being screened there. And so I was like, this would be such an amazing, like, full feature documentary in which we get to talk to people from the Surrey History Archive. We get to talk to the oral historians. We get to talk to Emma Brown, the photographer. Then we get to film it all coming together in the exhibit and ask people there about what they thought and have learnt from that. And, you know, and the people going through the process of seeing all these sort of things. And it was and this is all before we even got to get on the project. So I think when I look at those commissions and all that, I really see them as, you know, like these potentials of these golden orbs just like opening up. You know, it's not guaranteed that it happens, but I really think my view of it is, you know, kind of that sort of like law of attraction thing of things, which is the energy that you bring to it is the potential you can open up in it, you know, and who knows where they go. And you know, if we'd got any one of these commissions or something like that, it's like, yeah, that don't be subject to the mind model of the person who has put this up on a website and say, well, this is only going to be as big as you define it. You have no idea where it can go. You have no idea where that ends up leading, who you may end up meeting, what that may end up spawning from that. You know, like, don't take the narrow blind view of like, this money for this thing and that's what I produce and that's all it is. And you go, once you're in a room with a whole bunch of new strangers around a certain thing and you've all decided to embrace the creative spirit together, who knows? Like, who absolutely knows? And so I don't see, that's why I mean when I was talking about how I come from the complete other end of it, of looking at these commissions, is I see them just as much potential as the YouTube channel itself, you know, because the kind of the most meaningful documentary that I feel like we've made and that I had the pleasure to, you know, to be a part of was somebody else's commission. You know, Urban Opera was somebody else's commission. Now, we had a very unique relationship with someone who allowed us to really creatively explore it. But the point is, we didn't come up with the idea. We didn't go, this is a thing that I want to make and I'm going to go do that, you know? And it's like, this is someone else said, do you want to come here and be part of this? And then it opened all up. And so I see every single one of those. And that's why I see it as fundamentally different from like freelance work where someone just goes, you're here for a day to film a thing. Here's your payment. It's a little bit better when it's just like but you're here, you know, like it's a little bit better when it's like maybe an editing project, like when we had client work. Like I feel like, and that was why it was a tough process, you know, with the Tusk Awards, because that was like someone has come to you and they say, you got to make this thing, but I was really happy with where I got it to. And then they were like, nah, we want this. But I was like, but even I so enjoyed even getting to that stage. Like that was, I feel like so much gratitude that I got to that stage. And so it's like, it's on this kind of like, you know, it's on a spectrum, it's on a slider, you know, and at this end, it's like, we're paying you a day rate to fulfill a technical role, you know, and at this end, it's like, we're paying you a fee to bring your creative idea to telling these people's story. And I was like, wow, you know, that's crazy, you know? And so when, you know, all the stuff that we see that was the commission stuff that we're kind of talking about, I see it as like up on this end where we really have the opportunity for it to open out and for that stuff to be part of the channel, to be part of the thing, to make all these connections with these people, you know? And yeah, hopefully it can be. And hopefully as we do more of it, it becomes, you know, easier to get those, right? Because, yeah. And easier to get those also to the degree that, like, hopefully in the same way as the YouTube channel, you know, if it gets to a place where trust can come almost before we even meet someone, because someone can see it and go, I get it. Cool. And it just opens up things immediately. I would hope that could also apply to like commissions,
I
where we could go, here's the thing, you know, and then they can look and go, wow, actually we want your specific flavor of that thing, you know, which would be, you know, which would be amazing.
Yeah, we've got Urban Opera. We've got so many, you know, and that's That's National Lottery Fund. It's Arts Council. Like, we've got the foot in the door
Yeah.
to all that world. I think,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the excitement I felt going after Crawley and the other one, and that you guys are feeling going into those.
Yeah.
You know, let's maybe bring those together. But like,
Yeah.
we've got that because, you know, we're in that world, and you're right. Like, it shouldn't be. Like, I fundamentally now have to operate within that mindset. I think to a certain degree, you know, I'm my own accountant, and I have to put tax aside, and I have to. Yeah, like, invoices don't always come in when I need them to, and like, you know, I'm trying to build up an emergency fund so I don't have to be so. I saw this recently on a freelancing page. That was really good. He said, you know, what's the most important thing a freelancer should have? I said clients, and no, 6 months emergency fund, because then you can say no to a project and not be desperate because you don't need it.
Yeah.
So you're never beholden to a client that's like, oh, I'll just do this, and you're like, okay, I need the money. I'll just. It's like, if you're comfortable enough to where you can, you know, even if it's only a few months emergency fund, but you're like, you know what, I don't need to take this, and I don't like you, and I don't like this project. I'm just not going to do it. So I'm kind of in that mindset of like, I need to grind out a bit and like build that up and do as much as I can. And I'm being very lucky that I've got projects and things. But at the same time, I want my work to be enjoyable, and I want it to be what I want to do. And so, yeah, ultimately this YouTube channel and the podcast and my channel as well, like all that, that's why I want to shine through. But yeah, like 100%, those worlds can definitely be combined, I think, in the kind of charity space. Because no matter what, the most meaningful projects that I've ever been paid to do has 100% been urban opera. And I've done some charity projects in my old job at CWP as well, where they maybe weren't as meaningful as urban opera because I didn't have the exact same relationship with them as I did with Tom, but there was still way more freedom. They were still because they're passionate, because they're like, I want to tell this story, because they've made a charity around it. They've dedicated their life. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
So that's why I think for us it's such a beautiful thing to be part of. So yeah. 100%. I'm on board with that. And but yeah, it's just that I have a crossover where it's like I also would just love if all my freelance work was that as well. Like, so I guess I get into that place in my mind where there's a conflict.
Yeah.
Because, I don't want to just have to be doing corporate, you know, whatever. And that's fine. I can do that. And it's nice to have those as well, to just turn your brain off and be like, I'm going to shoot this interview with the CEO, whatever. And I'll try to bring my creativity, but ultimately I know that they'll want a certain thing. And that's fine. But yeah, I suppose this is also a learning for me to sort of, navigate this new space. Because definitely when I was working the full-time job, it was even more of a contrast of like, this is this, and this is the stuff I really want to be doing, but I'm not doing. And this is my job, you know. And I don't want to have that mentality with this, but there is also a finesse, and it's on a spectrum, right? As you said, like, okay, like, you know, last week I was in an office in central London. I shot a CEO, and it was like, fine. Still enjoyable, you meet new people, but ultimately it's like, that's that. And this is different, you're right. But if both those, you know, if that can be both of them, then, you know, that's great. But I definitely agree. I would rather...
you know, that's being open to the idea, because that's what I mean. And like, ideally, because that's where we could all, this would be the dream, huh? You know, in some way, is that our work gets to almost like exclusively be, as we were looking back, it's like stuff that we want to do for YouTube, and working with like charity, NGO, whatever clients. That we believe in and want to do the message. And like, so you're like, well, so like if they come up, they're like, let's do it, and then okay, that's
in a weird way, it's the perfect model for charities, because in a sense, and arts funds and all these things, because they might not have the full budget. They have something, they've been given something by the government. They can do a certain amount. So it's like, oh, we'll hire somebody a bit more junior and everything, and then in comes us of like, we'll do this for that. we'll do even more.
Yeah.
We'll do an even better job. And, but the caveat, it's not even a caveat, it's also a bonus for you, is we're bringing in the YouTube channel. And so in a sense, if just looking at it purely economically,
Yeah.
if the channel's generating revenue, the content we make about the charity thing will also generate. And so in a sense, the budgets, whatever, they get made up eventually because it's both the same thing. But and what a beautiful exchange. And also we'll give them more of a platform.
Yeah.
And also it means we could be selective because it's like, oh, this story here, that's amazing. That's incredible. Even if they have no budget, it might be that we want to do it. So it's like, yeah, it gives us that. I guess that's what we were aiming at, right? The direction is that freedom to explore the truth of whatever it is we want to explore.
Yeah.
But not necessarily, as you said, like just for this. It's not necessarily a selfish, like we're going to come up with it and we know what it is. It's more, it's out there in the world and we discover it. And it's the same with everything. It's the same with the James film.
Yeah.
It's just things you come across in life and you go, we should be talking about that, or more people should see that. And I'm interested in that. What is that? Let's go on a journey and figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So 100%. So let's
do it.
stay in
definitely.
communication about it. Cause I 100% understand if it's something you, Natasha want to lead on or want to do this or whatever. I was looking, there's another one that I was maybe going to do actually over the weekend. Last weekend, but I didn't go for it. It's too much work. But it was in Derbyshire. I think there was one on the Arts Council website. But again, a lot of these, they're hard to get because they want local people.
Yeah.
That's part of why I was so pumped for Crawley, man, because I grew up in Horsham. And my mum, I texted my mum and I said this in the interview, and I think it helped me, I said, my mum told me the first ever cinema experience I had as a child was in Crawley, because I went to see The Grinch, apparently, when I was really young. That was my first ever time going to the cinema. So I was able to say to them, my first ever, it's like coming home, or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, that's great. But
nice.
it wasn't meant to be. But I think, just using that as a case study, part of me thinks, not like karmically, but also just practically, we probably would have gotten that as a team, or we would have had a huge, very good chance of getting it, and it would have been really beautiful to do. So I think, and it's far better that we get to do those together, even if we decide, okay, however we decide to divvy that out. But it's far better that we do that than it just doesn't happen, and then so no, 100%. So let's keep an eye on them and just stay in touch, and I'll Guess everything's still going. It's slow.
Yeah. The sun went down. I'm glad you put the light on. That would have been.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of worried. I think it might be too dark, but you may not even use the. I don't know. We'll see. We're creating, not editing right now. Yeah.
That distinction. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, I haven't even looked at the website, or Natasha hasn't for the past, I don't know how many weeks, and that kind of that strangeness coming in, and just kind of how I am, and I knew it was such a funny sign. That's why I wrote it. I wrote it to both like you and Danny, my brother, and Jack, because like I knew I wasn't in a good place when like you guys had like all written to me or tried to message me, and I was just like unconsciously like, I'll do, and I was like, why is it all your bros you're like not talking to?
I wondered why you said that to me. You said I'm isolating from bros. I was like, why the bros? What have we done?
I was just like, I've like not called Jack, Daddy's trying to talk to me, like Vincent tried to call, and I was just like closed off, and I was like, why have you done this to like the closest people to you in your life? And I'm like, I do have that thing. It's just like when I get into a tight wound place, in a weird way, it's like those are the people that I know, like, I don't want to, and I couldn't pretend like that isn't happening with.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to have to confront it.
Yeah.
And part of me doesn't want to confront it right now in myself.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm going to have to do it with them, and
And then there's a part of it, me going like, well, I don't like to bring sort of unmetabolized psychic material to, you know, other people in like a dual fear, which is like, one, I may hurt you, like in some weird way, because it's just like who knows, like if I'm saying stuff from a bad place, or I'm not like fully, you know, like I'm not gonna be in a good place to say it. But two, it's like, I'm trying to figure this out myself, and out of a desire to like care, you're gonna try, you know, you're gonna go, oh well, that's and give some sort of version of like advice or take on it or something, and that's gonna foggy the picture in my own mind, because I'm gonna go, oh, it's not quite, but that's you know, and so I end up doing it from this double-ended like place of like, I don't want to put my shit on you, and I also don't want you to give me your take of my shit, because that may confuse me, you know. Yeah. And so I end up going like, but then I'm going, but this is also stupid, man, because now you're not talking to any of the closest guys in your life. You're like, this is, I'm seeing that and going, oh, when you think that like you're deluded, man, if you think that that's what's going on, you know. Also, side note, I don't know if you knew this. Sound like an old person saying this. You know what the kids are calling a dealer nowadays?
A dealer?
Yeah, a dealer.
Let me guess. I'm never going to be able to guess it, but let's just... I don't know. The stalk.
I like that.
Yeah.
A plug.
Oh, I've heard that, yeah.
Right? You've heard it? It's kind of dirty. And then I generate a whole bunch of jokes where I'm like, man, but if they're your plug, are you their socket? You know? Like, this doesn't quite, you know. Weird. And then I was like, and is a gay pimp a butt plug? I don't know. Anyway. No, it's a pimp of... Anyway, doesn't matter. We're going to go down that line.
Yeah, it's fine.
But yeah, it's... but then I was like, so shit. Like, what's the best? Like, what should be a good term? Like, a good term for a dealer. Me and Natasha came up with the best one. You want to hear it? It's dealer is your delude. Delivery dude, right? Delude. And it works because then...
He's here to delude you.
Yeah. Oh, no. But that's what I'm saying. If he's coming along and then he never shows up, you got deluded, right? But then also,
or if he showed up, you got deluded. Yeah, but depends what you got.
And if you'll go to the street, you go, "Oh man, which one's my dealer? How then?" You go, "Are you delude?" He goes, "I'm delude," right? And then when you come back, you go, "Oh, hey man, have you got delude?" Yeah, I got delude. On a side note, a weed connoisseur is a Budweiser, and then you go, "There's some good lewd. My Budweiser recommended it to me." See, delude. And then, you know, also if you're in that den and you think they're going to come and they never come, you're now, I don't know if you're delusional or deludional, but deludional is a bit of a weird, it sounds nice, but you know, the people aren't going to bother saying it. Deludional. They're just going to go back to delusional. So yeah, delude.
Delude.
Yeah.
That reminds me of another term I heard recently, which is, do you know what "I'm gonna wet you up" means?
I feel like it's activated some sort of
a young teenager very aggressively says to you, "I'm gonna wet you up, man."
And you don't laugh at them.
Well, you should. Well, I don't know. You shouldn't probably.
But I feel like it's, I guess, beat you up. But I don't know.
But how would they wet you up?
They're gonna pee on you. Is it?
No, okay,
because that was like weird. I was flashed to that. Did you see that Sunny in Philadelphia episode where they go to the zoo? It's the recent season. Have you seen the recent season?
No.
Oh, it's a hilarious moment because they're jokingly talking about the meerkats, and then like as dominants, you know, meerkats pee on each other, and then they're like doing like these random things in the zoo where they're going off and they just start like peeing on each other. You know, like Charlie's like peeing on Mac, and Mac just kind of like looking down and is like, "Are you peeing on me?" He's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Yeah, damn right I am." It's like, "Don't look at me in the eyes," you know. That's like, so, but no, wet you up is not pee on you.
No.
Throw acid on you. I don't know. They're gonna.
What would it?
They're gonna stab you, and therefore your blood will wet you up. Oh.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's gross.
Yeah, it's pretty.
See, I learned of it through a stand-up comedian who said it, but he didn't play the guessing game. So I was interested to see if you could guess what it is.
Yeah.
Reverse engineer it. It's quite gross, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a horrible sight.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the record, I've not heard this said in real life.
Yeah,
this was just somebody
who
mentioned it.
I'm trying to think of different. Anyway, but yes, yeah, that.
Used
Also,
to be what,
random
shank?
hanging out with. Yeah, no, that sounds badass. The other one,
To shank you.
right? You know, someone
Gonna
says
wet
that
you
it's
up.
scary. I'm like, God, even
Almost sounds like I'm going to make
I
you
was
wet.
like, even the muggers have got soft in this generation.
Oh my god.
Oh man, it's so funny. But yeah, the other when we were hanging out with Natasha and friends from work last night, came up with a number of different businesses that spawned from one story that friend Joao told of how he went to Berlin, and there's a club called like Catty Empire. I don't know what it is, but it's like you think it's a burlesque club, but it turns out it's a swingers club. You know, and I was going, oh God, you know, like the amount of accidental divorces that have happened from there. You know, a couple comes in, you know, because they're going, we're going to this thing, you know, and then one of them knew what they were booking, the other one didn't, and then the other one was like, what are you doing? It was like, I thought you knew we were coming this place. Like, I thought it was just a burlesque, you know, and then Joe was like, oh, you know, we'll go to the swingers club, and I was like, yeah, you guys do the thing. And it's like, what about you and Natasha? You want to come along? I was like, are we allowed to come along and just like stand in the upper balcony and just see what it's like, you know? Well, that I was like, maybe get out like a sketchbook. And Natasha was like, I would love that. Why is there not like life drawing in swingers clubs? And I was like, this is a good business idea. We're going to open up a life drawing swingers club, you know, no cameras, you know, but you have swingers doing their thing. And then you have people who just want to, you know, do some artistic drawing, you know, come along with the thing. Yeah.
A lot of movement though.
A lot of movement. Yeah, that's what I mean. Lemon would be very good, because I remember you doing the sketch thing. She's like, no, you got to do it now. Like, you can't sit around forever. Like, it's whatever's going to move, capture that first. You know, you got this much time. You don't have infinite time. You can't sit here for an hour and be like, keep that position. You know, stop moving back and forwards. You know, you've blown it. You know, you got to just go for it as a quick capture and then start filling out the sort of things. It tests you. It tests you, right? You know, that would be very cool. I don't think there are any kind of those life art drawing classes like that. So
this sounds like the backstory for some kind of artist in some film. Like, I used to go to the swinger club and pretend, you know, by just sitting there going on.
I'd be sketching it out.
The sketches became legendary. You know,
then I thought that the motion is actually part of the image, and I started blurring the lines.
That is when I had my first awakening.
Yes, and I thought, what is it? What is really color? What is really paint? It is in me. So I started ejaculating on the canvas and painting.
It's like some artist. It's some really wanky artist in some city American comedy who owns a big house. And he's walking around and he's telling the story of his art. Like, yeah. Which, by the way, that reminds me of a film that we watched recently. With what's it called? It's about Guardian Angel. Keanu Reeves plays Guardian Angel. Oh. Have you seen the trailer for this?
This isn't the one where he's like an alien that's come from out of Earth, and there's the whole storm of the world that's going on. It's going to annihilate Earth.
No, he's Guardian Angel. I don't know what that one is.
I think I know what you mean, the Guardian. Is it on Netflix?
I think so. It's somewhere. I don't remember where I watched it, but we watched it, and it's got Seth Rogen and... what's his name? Aziz Ansari. He's the main person in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's vaguely ringing out. Yeah.
Spoilers. I'm not going to spoil it, but I'll give you my opinion, which is that it's not a good movie whatsoever. Oh. But it's almost worth watching it just for Keanu Reeves.
Really?
I mean, there's a few lines in it
the Keanu Reeves
that he
effect.
says. I don't want to spoil it, but there's just some really good lines in it where he's just like... And he's very pure and humble in it. I mean, he's an angel, but he plays it really like, yes, I'm the angel, and I'm just trying to help, and he's very innocent. But then, he kind of has to live among humans for a bit. I mean, it's slight spoiler, but it's setting up the conflict. And then, so there's a conflict there of him seeing the reality of being a human and living that life. Just for his bit, it's good. But otherwise, it's not. It's not great. It's not great, but. yeah, if you're desperate for some Keanu Reeves,
Yeah.
he's good. And then if you want to use it, I like watching bad films sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, like, because it's a good case study. You just go, oh, that didn't work, and why didn't that work? And oh yeah, that, yeah.
And it gives you ideas, you know. Oh, the other idea, sorry. Going on from life drawing swingers class, it evolved from there because we also had another friend popping around with her dog. And then I thought, why is it? Well, actually, no, I'll do the advert first. I'll do the advert and then I'll explain the concept, which is your dog uptight, grouchy, can't seem to catch a break? Why don't you take him along to Doggy's Day Swingers? Because he's been a good boy. Don't you want him to meet a good girl? I thought, why can't you bring your dog along to a swingers club? And then you have a pet swingers club right next to it, where your dog gets to swing with whoever, right? Whoever hangs out there, whatever the thing is there.
Yeah, you're adding a lot of complications.
Yeah.
You're already going to a swingers club, and now you got to worry about your dog next door. Is there supervision? Like, is there a swinger supervisor with the dogs?
Yeah. Checking that no one's getting a little bit too, I don't know. Yeah. Checking that it's all doggy consensual.
Yeah, they're friendly.
Yeah. And then from that, but Poppy made the great point. It's like, but you wouldn't be, you're going to have so many litters of things. How would you do it? And I go, well, if you're worried about your dog having lots of puppies and you can't handle them, don't fancy drowning little dogs, do you? Then you can buy our Doggy Day After pill. So that way you don't have to worry about any of the babies coming. And it's just, I was like, if we can make a day after pill for humans, we can make a day after pill for dogs.
Yeah, surely.
Right?
Is it not, I almost would, is it not the same one? Like, no?
I don't think so.
Well, no, it just, blocks hormones, right?
Oh, God, there are some people in the world who maybe know this.
Yeah,
they shouldn't know this, but there are some people in the world that maybe know the answer to that question.
I mean, is reproductive systems between dogs and humans that different?
Yeah, they're messing with the whole... I mean, it would be different enough, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe
it's just a lower dose.
It's too much. Maybe the pill for the human is too much for the dog, and they'd be like,
God.
Yeah, I don't know. They get too, I don't know. But anyway, so then you can have them all, and so it's like a pharmacy next door that, it's a little counter that you can buy your Doggy Day After pill right there.
People are so obsessed with their dogs, it doesn't surprise me. Maybe that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
It's more and more
dog swinging.
Services for dogs and cats.
Yeah.
But cats are less, I think people spoil their dogs more because the dogs, always love them unconditionally, whereas the cats are... I'm going to invest that in my cat when my
people
cat
do get crazy amounts of stuff for their cat, but it's hard to get the cat to collaborate on it. They're not as captive victims of it as dogs are.
The dog will just sit there and be like, I hate this, but I love you.
Do it, but the cat will not let you put the jumper on that it doesn't like.
Nah, the cat will scratch you.
Yeah.
The cat will, fuck you, bitch.
Yeah.
I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why friendship with a cat is very special.
But yeah, so those were the ideas that I had that we had together. So doing some startups. I think don't know where the market for it is. Maybe we'll do Berlin. Maybe it is Berlin. Yeah, because actually, weirdly enough, I think it started from watching that. Have you seen the Subway Takes guy? He goes with it, and the Subway Takes of that the guy in Berlin who's wearing like the full like balaclava, ski mask. I swear to God, he met the spirit of Berlin. That was like one of the comments, like he met the spirit of Berlin, and it's so funny. I was just like, yeah, it's great. It's an embodiment of like German humor. German humor is no laughing matter. Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, really. Yeah. Wait, where the hell did I get lost on that train? Because there was before I even got onto the. I don't even remember. There was something. The bros. Isolating from the bros.
Yeah.
That's before I got into this ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. What the hell?
Yeah, Jesus. I don't know how we ended up there. Yeah, that was crazy. But yes, I realized from that there's some sort of middle ground somewhere to be met, and I've got to figure it out because, of course, as I'm doing it, I'm like, this obviously, you're deluding yourself if that's how we got there, deluding. But you're you're deluding yourself if you think that, not talking to any of your like closest friends is the answer to figuring out what's going on. I was like, yeah, this isn't it either. But there is a certain amount of like, it's weird because they're coming out of the other end of like a tougher period. I do think that there is, you know, it's understanding the role that like anger plays and being with those emotion plays, where it's not good. I wouldn't say it's healthy, but there is a driving mechanism of having like almost like it build enough, you know, having enough build of that you just like, you go, I'm going to do it differently now, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas, and I think somehow I maybe, it's not the case, but like there's a version of where I think it's a really hard line to balance, but there's a version where sharing things with other people can act like a sedative as well. You know, because if you just think about the amount of people, like, and this is understanding the function that it plays, knowing the amount of people who come out of work and they complain about everything that has happened at work, right? But that actually serves in a way to act as a sort of sedative to not actually dealing with what is fundamentally under, like, you're not happy here, maybe. Yeah. You don't want to do, well, you need to confront this thing different, all that.
Well, that's what gossip is.
Because, you just kind of share it out in that way. And it's like, so if you didn't do that, like, would it become intolerable to the point that eventually you're like, I'm not doing this anymore? Like, and then maybe you have to really confront the problem, you know? And so I think and it's understanding, but that's not what all communication is, especially with like the closest people in your life. That's not just like, you'll know, and hopefully they'll, you know, kind of, they reflect back at you, whether you're like, are you just like complaining about stuff, but you don't actually like, what is it that's underneath this? They'll be like, yeah, but what is it that's underneath this? And that's maybe also part of where you're like, oh, actually, you're the one who doesn't want to confront it, because you know that they'll go, well, it's really underneath this. And you're like, I don't know. I don't want to confront it right now. You know? Yeah. So it's a tough one. Yeah. Because I can't do the sort of half measure way of being with like you or Danny or Jack, you know what I mean, in that way. So it's just like, you know, you're just gonna have to go the whole hog on this, and you're kind of like just trying to get by at the second because everything's so like, you're like, you know. So yeah, and therefore coming a little bit out, I was like, you know what, I didn't even know I was gonna necessarily be in a better place for today. I was actually being like, you may well just do it today. You're like finally going to be like, well, you got a day, you're doing the podcast with Vincent, let's just do it now, you know. But luckily already in the last few days it's kind of like untangled itself a little bit more through hearing messages at the right time from places and things, and it's kind of like being less into the restrictive poverty mindset of stuff, you know. And definitely definitely learning from that process, and appreciate having here today to be able to talk things through.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Appreciate us being here.
Yeah.
I actually forgot people might be watching for a second, so I appreciate if anyone else is here.
Yeah.
This is long. I think
I've had no idea how long it is.
Because
I've just approached it as like, we're just chilling, man. Like, previous ones I've been like, we're talking about a thing, and that's the thing, and all that. I was just like, just roll it, and I'm just going to catch up with Vincent, and we'll see how it goes.
No, it's great.
You know?
But I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Man. And to many more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel it's a natural end, maybe.
Yeah.
Bring it in, give me a hug.
Yeah, man. Oh my God.
Can we navigate the two and up? Should we do it?